Welcome. The January 9th, 2024 regular meeting of the Everett Public School of Directors is called of order. Dr. I'm going to break your name, Roman, said he is honored to present the land acknowledgement, section 2.0. Please join him.
We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional lands of the Coast Salish, Snohomish, and Tulalip peoples. We express our deepest respect and gratitude to the ancestors of this land on whose shoulders we stand. In Everett Public Schools, we strive to create equitable outcomes and build a culture of inclusive belonging for all students, teachers, staff, and community.
We will now move on to section 3.0, which is the flag salute. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. If needed, unless you have your uniform, please remove your hat.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now it is section 4.0, roll call. Will the secretary please call the roll?
President Mitchell.
Present.
Vice President Herman.
Present.
Director Atkins.
Present.
Director Mason.
Present.
Director Revelinsky.
Present.
Student Representative Gilbertson.
Present.
Student Representative Kink.
Thank you. And we do wish our best to Student Representative Kink. Moving on to section 5.0, adoption of agenda. Our first item of business is the adoption of the agenda. Dr. Saltzman, will you please introduce the agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, and to the public this evening. Tonight's agenda contains the following: a recognition of December's core value champions, a recognition of the Washington Music Educators Hall of Fame inductee, a recognition of our directors for School Board Recognition Month, the superintendent's report, time for comments from the board and student representatives, time for directors to hear from the community in the public comment section, an update from our legislative representative, a segment for routine business, a strategic initiative study session preview, summary of the work accomplished during this year's instructional reviews, an update regarding the student information system, several policies for first reading, the proposed board meeting schedule for the 2023-2024 school year, and a preview of the agenda items for the upcoming meetings. Since publishing the agenda, the following changes were made to the agenda. Item 5.01, adoption of the agenda, the timing sheet was updated to include a break. Item 7.01, the superintendent's report, the presentation was added. Item 11.08, approval of the Puget Sound Taxpayers Accountability Act grant for early learning. The attachment was updated to include fund distribution details. And item 13.01, first quarter financial update and November 2023 financial report, a slide title in the presentation was updated. Thank you, Madam Chair, Board of Directors, to the public this evening.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. Is there a motion for adoption of the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. It has been moved by Director Mason and seconded by Director Herman to adopt the agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we will proceed to the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. The motion carries. The agenda is adopted. Thank you. We'll now move on to section 6.0, recognitions. As was said, we have three items tonight for recognition. We will begin with our December core value champions, the value of passion. And Jen, I think you are going to introduce this for us. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, good evening, and thank you for the time we have tonight to recognize our December core value champions. The core value for December, actually was collaboration. I think passion is January.
Thank you for that.
It's collaboration. And every school in the district will recognize their December core champions, as well as their names will be listed on the website. But there will be 3 schools tonight to tell you about their champion. We will have each principal come up with their student, and they will tell you why they were selected and Then we're going to ask them to stay up front until the third student is up, and we'll take some photos. And then families and friends will be asked to come up for another photo. So recognizing their students tonight are Elizabeth Kelly from Lowell, Dr. Wilnick Gideon from Eisenhower Middle School, and then Joanne Budewig will be presenting the award for Sequoia High School. All right. And the certificates are right here.
Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Kelly, the principal at Lowell Elementary, and this is fifth grader Sophia Rossi, who was nominated for this award by our 4 specialist teachers. She embodies the value of collaboration across all 4 of their classes, PE, music, library, and STEAM. The teachers shared that she works well with everyone, whether a good friend or a student she would not naturally be drawn to. This includes helping other students and teachers, being open to others' ideas while working together, communicating her ideas clearly, and applying problem-solving skills. In addition, Sophia demonstrates collaborative skills in the Lowell Choir and on our robotics team. The robotics coaches have seen her soar this year in collaboration with her team, always balancing her leadership skills and providing other students with opportunities. Congratulations to Sophia, and keep up the great work.
All right. My student is on his way. I just called the parents, but I'm happy to speak on behalf of James Crosby. So good evening, esteemed school board members, teachers, and fellow students. It is my great honor to present James Crosby, a 6th grader who exemplifies the core value of collaboration for special recognition. James brings a unique blend of joy and enthusiasm to our school. His presence lights up any room, and his positive attitude is infectious. He's not just a friend to his peers, he's a collaborator who elevates every group he's part of. In math class, for example, James stands out for his ability to communicate complex ideas, helping his classmates excel. He listens, questions, and encourages them, making every group discussion fruitful and inclusive, and make it an inclusive experience. His maturity and respect have earned him the admiration of both his 6th grade peers, and he's a 6th grader, and his 7th graders alike in this math class. Above all, James is kind, hardworking, and an active participant in all facets of our school. His dedication to not just his work, but to helping others is what makes him truly exceptional. James embodies what we value most of our students: collaboration, kindness, and a relentless pursuit of learning and growth. He is a remarkable student, and even more, a remarkable human being. So thank you, James, for inspiring us all.
And while Joanne comes up, I do hope we can edit that video so that James can see what Dr. Wilnick just said. If somebody can take care of that.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for letting me represent our principal, Belinda Mountjoy. As Sequoia's Collaboration Core Value Champion, Vanessa Pivarol-Covarubas brings her dedication as a learner, one who engages and asks questions in her quest for understanding the world around her, a kindness and a curiosity that she promotes, helping others learn and welcomes their viewpoints. She collaborates well and leaves room for other voices, but she also stands up for what she believes in, and she's good at that. Vanessa's first appearance in my class can be deceiving. She's very quiet, unassuming, often takes a seat near the back, but she is thoughtful in everything she does, and she never fails to assure that anyone around her who is not engaged and a part of things is invited in. She has done this with the quiet, unassuming people with their heads down, but also I watched her beautifully this fall calm down a very agitated student with her quiet nature and her continuous pressure, to the point where the student readily re-engaged in the class. And it was in that moment that it was clear when we were asked for nominees for collaboration, she was definitely first on my list. Her thoughtfulness has added to the collective wisdom of what it means to come alongside and bring others along with her in that quest for insight. She has grown so much in the last year, and that quiet confidence spills out to those around her. The staff at Sequoia believe Vanessa exhibits the very best of what we want our students to be as they join and build a learning community. Congratulations, Vanessa.
And Jen, can I break with our protocol, please, to have you introduce, maybe not the whole speech, but just so we can meet him. But please share the speech, because it was wonderful.
Oh, yeah. Can I, if you don't mind?
Yes, please.
All right. Sorry. Where's my phone?
Especially
Sorry,
because you showed up.
And-
Yeah, I mean, I love.
And
I
he's
love
dressed
your-
to the nine.
He's dressed in my husky purple.
Well, welcome, James. I wanted to share, present James Crosby, a sixth grader, again, who exemplifies the core value of collaboration for special recognition tonight. James brings a unique blend of joy and enthusiasm to our school. His presence lights up any room, and his positive attitude is infectious. He's not just a friend to his peers, he's a collaborator who elevates every group he's part of. In math class, for example, James stands out for his ability to communicate complex ideas, helping his classmates excel. He listens, questions, and encourages, making every group discussion a fruitful and inclusive experience. His maturity and respect have earned him the admiration of both his sixth grade peers and his seventh grade peers. Above all, James is kind, hardworking, and an active participant in all facets of school life. His dedication to not just his work, but to helping others is what makes him truly exceptional. James embodies what we value most in our students, again, collaboration, kindness, and relentless pursuit of learning and growth. He is a remarkable student, an even more remarkable human being, and better dresser than me. Thank you, James, for inspiring us all.
And usually the group photos are up here, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
just right here in front of us. Yeah. And Joanne, thank you for stepping up tonight. Yeah.
All right.
And
Okay.
Anybody that wants to take a picture, feel free to come up.
Well, this one, we'll do this, and then we'll call everyone up. Okay, 1, 2, 3. That's great. And then if any family, if you want to be, oh, you go ahead. I'll give these to you too. But you can be in a picture as well. If family and do you want to come up as assistant principal or, okay. Go ahead. I'll be sure to share these photos. Thank you. This is great. This is a good group shot here.
Wonderful.
All right. All right. 1, 2, 3, cheese. Or congratulations. Okay, there we go. Got it. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to have him repeat his speech, because I think James needed to hear that. Okay, now we'll move on to the School Board Recognition Month. We are really humbled by this recognition. We have multiple presenters, and I'll let them introduce themselves and their organizations. Jen, I think you're going to begin us out again.
Laura Wellington.
Laura Wellington, oh, thank you. I skipped over honestly, what is the second most important next to our students is staff. Next, we have recognition of the Washington Music Educators Hall of Fame inductee. Laura Wellington, will you please present this exciting news?
Good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, and Superintendent, Dr. Saltzman. I'm Laura Wellington, the very proud principal of Heatherwood Middle School. It is my absolute pleasure to recognize Ms. Leslie Moffitt for her outstanding accomplishments and positive contributions as a music educator in the Everett Public Schools and beyond. I'm going to ask that she join me so she could be recognized for this few moments. Ms. Moffitt began her career in 1990 in Indiana before moving to Mill Creek in 1992 and becoming the director of bands and orchestras at Linwood High School. She later became the band director at Jackson High School in 2002. Over the next 2 decades, she shared her passion for music, inspiring numerous students to continue their musical journeys into adulthood. She even co-constructed an original musical during the pandemic. Currently, Ms. Moffitt serves as the band director at Heatherwood Middle School. She not only teaches our students how to read music, play, and perform, but she teaches our students how to respect themselves and how to care for a greater community. Her class is magical, student-centered, and full of energy and respect. In fact, when I'm having a day, I go to her class so I can have some calm and reflection. When asked to describe her class, our student said, "It's one of my favorites. She's an outstanding educator, her class is engaging, and she can play a mean trombone." She hosts a Band Buddies program after school that provides past students the opportunity to mentor our current middle school musicians. In a program she calls Grand Buddies, she organizes field trips to visit retirement homes in our community throughout the year so young and old can connect through music. Certainly a highlight in her career, Ms. Moffitt has been selected for induction into the Washington Music Education Association Hall of Fame. With an impressive 36-year career in music education, Ms. Moffitt follows in the footsteps of her parents, Bruce and Joe Caldwell, who are here presently, who are also esteemed members of the WMEA Hall of Fame. Congratulations, and thank you for being an outstanding educator, and thank you for being an inspiration to all of us. Congratulations and bravo.
We'll take a photo as well. Do you want to just stand up there, please? And then your family can come up as.
My mom and dad. My George.
Oh, if you could scoot a little bit this way. Yeah, I'll get one. Yeah. Okay, I'll get one with just, and then we'll have the family. Oh, wait, I can't see Jen. Okay, here we go. No, we're good. I can see everybody now. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, great. And then, and then family.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Aw. I knew you looked, when you walked in, I was like, there's somebody that works here. It looks like, I know now. All right. Let me make sure I got everyone. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Great. Thank you so much.
If I can't see the camera. I really do appreciate, Jen, you corrected me there because students and the staff are why we do what we do. So now, lastly, it is School Board Recognition Month, and I will repeat, we are really humbled by this recognition. So we have multiple presenters, and I'll let them introduce themselves and the organizations, beginning, Jen, I think you're going to start this off.
Yes, thank you very much. All right. Thank you for the opportunity to share about board recognition. By proclamation from the governor, January is School Board Recognition Month, and we are pleased to be able to thank you for all you do for us. as well as to let people share in that gratitude. Before I bring up our first presenter, I have a couple of statements to read from groups that were not able to be here tonight due to illness. So Matt Bennett, representing the Everett Association of School Administrators, sent me this to read. Our apologies that we were unable to join you in person today. Our school board is simply amazing. Thank you for your service. You spend your own money to run for this office and in turn serve the 20,000 students of the district without pay in return. We see the time that you sacrifice away from your family, your job, and yourself to do this important work. On behalf of the principals, assistant principals, and CRC directors, we thank you. As a gesture of appreciation, we will be making a donation in the name of the board to the Everett Public Schools Foundation. Thank you. And Laura Rogers, representing the Everett Association of Paraeducators, sent me this to read. I am sorry I am unable to be here, there. We want to thank you for the extraordinary service you provide to the district, the staff, and especially the students. Education empowers our youth to realize their aspirations and dreams. As you are caretakers of education, you help our students keep these in focus and reach them. You voluntarily make time to share your vision and voice for Everett students. You give of your time to ensure we are doing what is best for our students. We try to show you how much you are appreciated during the month of January, and we know your contribution is a year-round commitment. Too often, we forget the local control over our schools here in Everett. This control is in the hands of people we know, people who are our neighbors. Thank you for all you do. You are appreciated more than words can say. Take care. And then, as you can see, we have quite a few more people here tonight to recognize and give their appreciation. So our first presenter is Kay Fanton from the Everett Public Schools Foundation.
Thank you, Jennifer. She's going to be my Vanna to help hand out. As you know, a key factor in the makeup of great cities is a pillar of institutions, and most notably our schools. The Everett Public Schools is a major contributor to the growing success of our community. It educates our youngest citizens and ensures that our schools have the tools they need to succeed. Our schools are central to our community's ongoing economic, social, and cultural vitality. School board members play a critical part here. As part of School Board Recognition Month, it's a great time for us to show our appreciation for all the time that you give and devote to our students and our staff and to the support to Everett Public Schools. Our donors, our board of directors, the team recognize the unique role you play in promoting and advocating for our schools. We appreciate the countless hours advocating for schools. Being a school board member is a challenging role, an important role to help lead our schools to prepare our students to lead successful lives. The foundation is fortunate to have such thoughtful, dedicated community leaders guiding and supporting our students, staff, and community. On behalf of the Everett Public Schools Foundation and our donors, we thank you for your work and all you do, and we are grateful for the partnership and the difference you make every day throughout the year. We have a little treat for you, and we would love when you enjoy your treat, send us a photo or a little video. It's a little personal campfire kit for you. And then last but not least, I did selfishly plug that don't forget to register for our event in March. Oh, I forgot. I'm the next. I get the honor to introduce the Everett Public School PTS counselor, Beamish.
Good evening. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. My name is Beanish Iqbal, and I am the current president of Everett PTSA Council 7.3. And I'm here today on behalf of our council directors, as well as on behalf of our 27 local PTAs within our school district. Today, our council handed out some appreciation gifts to the school board members and officials in the room. Those black and gold bags are from us. We appreciate the school board mission to meet the child's potential reality by engaging in families and communities to advocate for all children. Directors shares that mission with enthusiasm and dedication to the greatest strength possible. I also acknowledge the great work and support for students and staff in our district every month, every day, each year you all have provided so far. Thank you. In the Everett School District, we are so lucky to have deeply improving student learning opportunities, staff support, emotional growth, and an innovative approach to provide educational resources for every student to have the opportunity to succeed. Also, creating avenues for engagement with our families and community members to create a strong learning environment. Following the best practices has provided successful association this year, enhancing overall educational experiences with great pleasure. We recognize each of you for promoting student leadership, staff success, and family engagement of representation within our school district. We have a wonderful school district, and we are honored to be a part of it. Thank you so much for all that you do every day. Next up is Sakut.
Good evening. I have the honor of representing the Everett Association of Office Professionals. I'm here to say and begin by saying thank you. Thank you for being visible, for being the set of ears when needed, and for always thinking of ways to engage everyone in our district missions. Thank you for putting our students first and making sure that EPS always has the best out for our kids. As I said last year, your roles are endless, and we are fortunate to have you capture the voices of our community, staff, and students at large. We are in the recovery phase financially, but I know that you're always going to keep our community, staff, and students at heart. You will always ensure that our students are receiving the best services to prepare them post-high school. The roles that you play in the decision-making process is key. You are always taking recommendations that are presented to you and digging in deeper to help minimize the overall impact to our community, staff, and students. For that, we are grateful. This year, on behalf of School Board Recognition Month, our membership has donated funds to the Everett Public Schools Foundation to help contribute to their scholarship fund and give back to our students. Thank you. And on behalf of our membership, please know that you are appreciated. Up next is Jared Kink from the Everett Education Association.
Good evening. Thank you. I normally am a little bit off the cuff on my comments, and I thought I'd try a little different attempts today and read something, which then I needed my glasses. On behalf of the over 1,300 certificated members of the Everett Education Association, I'd like to thank you for your service and to acknowledge the achievements of the Everett School District under your leadership. Although challenges from COVID remain, there will always be challenges ahead of us. Our district has weathered these difficulties better than most districts over the last handful of years. The district's budget is more transparent and sounder than it has ever been. Turnover by certificated and principals is at an all-time low. Student achievement is outstanding, and there's the strongest sense of support from administration that I've ever seen before. In celebrating the successes, let us not overlook the paramount importance of the dedication and hard work of you and all the educators in our system. The impressive strides in student achievement we observed this year are not only a testament to the collective efforts or the collaborative efforts and professional freedom afforded to our amazing educators, but also to the support they feel from you. Many do not know that this is the 50th anniversary of the Everett Education Association and the Everett School Board going to court over bargaining rights and teacher input on the decisions made in the district. We've come a long way from those days, and we hope to continue Continue holding high our shared values and vision for educational excellence for every student in our district. Your time and commitment to our district is all voluntary. All of our EEA leaders, all of their work is also voluntary. We know a volunteer inspires others to join and affect positive change beyond themselves. Volunteers are often the catalyst for a culture of empathy, innovation, and common purpose. Our members know the sacrifices made by people like you. So thank you for volunteering so much of your time and energy in service to your employees, students, and the Everett School District and its community. Thank you. So I have some pies for you. Normally I say eat them yourself. I thought we could throw them at you this year. Just kidding. No, there's multiple pies here. I think I'll just hand them out randomly. To one of you can exchange. Like, I don't like an apple, it can have a pecan or whatever like that. But please enjoy the pie. Don't put it in a staff room, and you can eat it on your lap on the way home too, if you like. That's what I tend to do. And if you don't mind, I think there'll be one that I'll save for a recuperating school board member at home.
Oh,
So,
yes,
thank you.
please do.
Up next is Laura.
I don't know if I can follow pies. Wow. So I'm Laura Peterson, and I'm representing your Everett Licensed Nurses Association, so the nurses that take care of the students that we have in this district and some of our staff. And everyone that has gone before me has said it so eloquently, so I will give you the gift of time and not, you guys are awesome. I'm not going to go into more than that. But again, I just wanted to acknowledge, along with the fellow nurses that I work with, that you guys are an award-winning school board, and I think that's pretty fantastic. I worked with several of you in PTA issues, and it's great to see you now in the chairs in front of us. Our gift is a little bit smaller, but inside recognizes there's Band-Aids, because I mean, what else do the nurses do besides give out Band-Aids? No. And the Band-Aids themselves I picked are very diverse. There's quite an assortment to kind of represent the diversity that we have here in the district. You'll also find a little stress reliever toy, because it is little, so you can be discreet as you use that, because I know budget things can be stressful. And it's in a reusable tin, so that maybe when you pull it out and you use up all the Band-Aids, hopefully not too quickly, I don't know, it depends on if you have more prone to injury than some of us, and you can reuse it then for something else or pass it on. But again, we appreciate everything that you do for us. We know that it's difficult, but you do it with a smile, and you listen to what we present to you and to what the public presents to you, and we really appreciate that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, sorry, and I'm supposed to introduce Dave, this one. Oh,
Hi, I'm Dave Passy. I have been chosen to represent the PropTech group, a group that is about 80 members strong. There's my peeps back there, a few of them. Being co-president on the Mean Confer board. I've never seen myself in color TV, so I'm a little nervous. But anyhow, they told me to keep it short and sweet, so thank you and goodbye. But seriously, I just want to say thanks for your commitment to the district mission, the strategic plan, aligning that. And also thanks for keeping the focus on the kids, the budget, the equity within the budget, and maintaining that goal, that mission of the strategic plan, and why we are all here. Because we're all in it together, right? Some of us are feet, some of us are arms, some of us are brains. I was not gifted with that, but that's another story. But anyhow, I just want to say how much I'm so thankful for the people that I represent with our group, and the many other members here of the district that really do it all every day for the kids. And that's what's most important. So thank you for what you do, and I appreciate your time. And next up is Jeff Russell.
Yeah.
My name's Jeff Russell. I'm president of the Everett Coaches and Extracurriculars Association. Board of Directors of Everett Public Schools, you are appreciated. As a coach and a parent, I'm especially appreciative of your commitment to athletics and to clubs at all levels in our district. This year marks the 30th year that I have had either a child or a stepchild in an Everett Public Schools classroom. It's a long time. And the youngest stepchild will graduate in 2027, like the previous four did from Everett High School. And I know that the classroom is the central place of public education, but it's not the only place. The field, the track, the robotics lab, the mat, those are the same places that we impart our most valuable lessons and pass off the most important skills and pieces of knowledge that we have to give to our children. And I'm deeply appreciative of your commitment to those endeavors that take place on behalf of the district for the sake of our children. I and all of our association presidents also appreciate your commitment to the collective bargaining process. To be frank, I've been through a few of them in different sides. Collective bargaining can be frustrating. It can be exhausting. It can be an absolute pain in the you-know-what, but it is all worth it. Because collective bargaining gives a voice to the workers, to the workforce of this district, so that they have input and make that workplace better. I think it also makes employers more wise in their work. And all of that combined wisdom goes to work on behalf of who really matters, not employees or employers, but the kids in our district. Board of Directors, we count on you. We count on you. 2,000 employees, 20,000 kids. We count on you to be wise and smart. And I know that no good district stays good without a good board. And there is no great school district around in which there is not a great school board working on its behalf. All of us together, the coaches especially, thank you, and appreciate your work, and we're especially appreciative of your greatness. Thank you for your public service.
Oh, yeah, no. Okay. No, thank you all. Gonna take a breath. Now we're moving on to section 7.0, Superintendent's Report. Dr. Saltzman.
Okay. Well, a hard act to follow tonight, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board of Directors and the public this evening. First of all, congratulations to the board to be honored for this, well-deserved, and to all the presenters today. I know the board truly appreciates your sentiments as well as mine. I would like to say again to the Moffitt family, congratulations to being in the Hall of Fame, so well-deserved. And to the students that won those awards tonight, thank you, parents, for letting us have them tonight. And thank you, parents, for having amazing students. I'd like to welcome back everybody for a happy, healthy New Year. I hope everyone had a wonderful winter break. I hope you were able to spend time with family and friends. And let's continue making this a fantastic year, 2024. 2024, again, to our school board, your contributions and dedication is exemplary. Again, to the public, great heartfelt thank you to our board for their commitment for our students and staff. I work with them every day, and I will tell you they're the hardest working people that I've worked with side by side. So I'm looking forward to these great recognitions that you are well deserving of. Well, guess what, to our community? We have a Let's Connect community event coming up on promoting healthy digital habits. We will have a guest speaker from the University of Washington who will be joining us to talk about how digital technologies influence the development of our youngsters. This event is open to everyone and will take place on February 6th at Cascade High School. We look forward to seeing everybody in our public here for this event that will benefit all our students. Would like to mention to everybody, please check out our latest Parent University, and it covers college and career readiness seminar. This will be a must for all seniors gearing up soon for, it'll be coming up in 4.5 months, commencement. This will be a dive into essential 21st century skills, navigating the FAFSA for post-high school education, crafting resumes, honing the interview skills, and understanding financial stability and much more. Please take time to watch that Parent University. We're very proud of it. I think this will be very beneficial to our youngsters. And in closing, I'd like to congratulate the Huskies. They had a fantastic season. Only 2 teams get to play in the national championship. They are the national champions to us always, and wasn't the way we wanted it to end, but it'll be a great way to start at 14-1 as they enter for next year. So purple reigns still, and I want to congratulate our Huskies and all Husky fans. Thank you, Madam Chair, and to the board. Appreciate the time tonight.
Thank you so much, Dr. Saltzman. We are now moving on to section 8.0, which is board comments. The purpose of this agenda item is for the directors and student representatives to have the opportunity to share what they have encountered through work in the district, in schools, and in the community as it pertains to the work of the board. Comments should be kept brief and should not share personal information. And I will start tonight with Director Herman, and we'll just move around. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll have some comments under the legislative update section, but for those groups that came with appreciation tonight for the school board, I just want to say how much that means as a director, just to hear your comments. So I don't think I recognized when I was in those shoes giving words to the board, but it really does mean a lot as a director. So happy and healthy 2024, and good to be here. Thank you.
I'll keep my comments brief. Ayukwi, just wishing everyone had a restful and relaxing winter break. I've been having the opportunity over the past few weeks of just getting oriented with things, and thanks to Dr. Saltzman and other great staff here, just getting more familiarized with just the great work we're doing here. Had some great conversations with lawmakers over the past few weeks alongside Dr. Saltzman and Director Herman, and yeah, that's everything that I have to report.
Thank you.
I too would like to thank everyone who came tonight to help us honor School Board Appreciation Month. I do, although it took a little bit longer tonight, I do appreciate the recognition section, in particular, to have the opportunity to bring both our exceptional staff and amazing students. We don't have many opportunities to brush up against everyone in the district, so to bring them in the boardroom and celebrate them and have them share their stories is very meaningful to me. And it seems a little bit odd sometimes to be recognized for something that I love so much in serving all of you. But at the end of the day, I just want to say thank you so much for your kind words and greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
I feel the same way. I feel undeserving of such accolades as a new board member, and I hope to feel like I've earned it more later, and I look forward to working really hard. Thank you.
Thank you.
No real updates since we just got back from break and everything, but thank you for everyone that came here tonight to thank us, because all of you guys do so much for us too. It's not just the school board, it's everyone. So thank you guys too.
Thank you. I do want to thank everyone too for all the gifts, and I'm just going to point out the cookies we get every year. Whoever makes these, please know that I adore them. I love them and enjoy them. I do not share. So Director Herman and I, with Dr. Saltzman and Mike Gunn, had the pleasure of speaking with Congressman Rick Larson last week, and really had his interest in public schools and service of the community. I believe that Director Herman will speak more to this later, so I'll be brief, because I think really why he wanted to meet with us was to maybe get some inside baseball about what's happening, which we know what is in the paper. So we were very disappointed to share that with him. December 18th, I did attend a virtual meeting hosted by WASDA and OSPI with other district leaders about last year's state audits. You may have heard that Washington State received 89% of audit findings, which means there was a potential problem with our audit. It wasn't clean in potential accounting talk. 11% of these were rest of the nation. So 49% of the states received 11% of the findings, and Washington State received 89% of the findings. 85% of these were based on the Emergency Connectivity Fund, which is called the ECF, in Washington State, and 5% were in the nation. Now, I know 85 and 5 does not add up to 100, so I do not know where the other 10 are. Just because I'm talking accounting, I'm going to stay numerically honest. What doesn't add up, there were 48 districts in Washington who were included in the ECF audits, and 40 of these had findings. One of them had no findings at all, which means that we are one of the 89% or 85% in the nation who received audit findings. Being an exception like this is not something that we did. It is believed to be a Washington State issue, not an Everett issue. WASDA and OSPI have a meeting with the FCC in Washington, D.C. on January 13th about their FAQ. And I'm just surmising that being the Federal Communications Commission and FAQ, they must be the ones that are communicating federal business. And so making sure that auditors cannot read a document and infer anything other than what is intended. So really the question that they're going to ask is, why did 49 states auditors see the ECF one way and our state auditors saw it a different way? So we will be helping. I volunteered us to help with WASDA and OSPI's efforts before their meeting on January 31st. Haven't heard any clarifying any information yet, but I will be reaching out to the staff as soon as I hear it. Lastly, it'll be Thursday. We have a special meeting. It's a sort of a mini retreat as we have new directors. We will review board policies, how we work as one board, how we communicate, and some other topics as we serve the Everett Public Schools in the community. So I'm really looking forward to that event on Thursday. So thank you, Dr. Saltzman, for coordinating it. And now we move on to section 9.0, or public comments. The school board specifically sets aside time during the regular board meeting to hear from our constituents. We do this because we value public input and want to hear and understand the perspective you bring to the table. Our board meetings are designed to conduct district business in public in an orderly, productive, and respectful manner. We welcome ideas and opinions presented in that same manner. Dr. Saltzman, are there any requests for comments during this first public comment slot?
There are none at this time.
Thank you. Now we move on to section 10.0, legislative updates. The purpose of this agenda item is for the board legislative representative and other directors, as applicable, to share legislative updates through work in the district and schools and in the community as it pertains to the work of the board and the interests of the district. Director Herman, do you have any updates?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So the 2024 legislative session is off and running with some top priorities at the state level, including affordable housing and homelessness, the environment, substance abuse treatment and prevention, and mental health. Since December, about 600 new bills have been pre-filed for the legislature to consider, and this is in addition to any bills that were still alive at the end of the 2023 session, which is about 1,200. So those are still in play as well. With it being a short session of 60 days, the various cutoff dates during session are compressed, the first one being January 31st. And so bills will have to make it past each of these cutoffs to keep moving in the process. So the short session keeps a very tight schedule. Committee hearings have started this week, and I wanted to just highlight a few topics of interest to us. Around school construction and capital facilities, Senate Bill 5823 concerning school district elections, and Senate Joint Resolution 8207 on amending the Constitution to allow a majority of voters to authorize school district bonds. So this is regarding a simple majority for bond elections, something that we've been discussing for years in the education field. These two bills were submitted at the request of the Superintendent of Public Instruction, and both are scheduled for public hearing in the Senate Committee on Early Learning and K-12 Education this Thursday and executive session on Friday. So it'll be interesting to see if there's some additional support and traction for that this year. Around transportation, Senate Bill 5873, providing adequate and predictable student transportation. This bill would modify the student transportation allocation formula, require OSBI to provide an analysis of school district transportation costs and allocations by 2027, and provide that transportation contracts after September 1st of 2024 require that contractor to provide employee health and retirement benefits comparable to those received by school employees. This is scheduled for a public hearing Thursday and executive session Friday. Also in this category related to electric school buses, substitute House Bill 1368, requiring and funding the purchase of zero-emission school buses, and its companion bill, Senate Bill 5431. This is a carryover from the 2023 session with a lot of legislator sponsorship behind it, and it's getting a hearing in the House Appropriations Committee on Thursday, so we'll see where that goes. One of the legislative issues we have talked about is paraeducator pay, and the governor's proposed budget that he had announced back in December included a proposed $3 an hour increase, while OSBI's budget request was for a $7 an hour increase. We are still expecting to see those bills, but have not yet, and we'll keep an eye out. But another related bill of interest, and one that is of high level of support from WASDA and matches our own priorities, is Senate Bill 5882, increasing prototypical school staffing to better meet student needs. Its companion bill is House Bill 1960. This would be increasing the staffing ratios for teaching assistants, office supports, and non-instructional aides in the prototypical school funding model. So this is one with high support and is scheduled public hearing tomorrow morning. Regarding special education, always a big topic. At least 4 bills have been introduced regarding special education funding, and several have been introduced regarding special education services or related legislation. The bills regarding funding each have different proposals regarding the cap of 15%. If you remember last session, that had been moved. Most raising or phasing it out altogether. And that's more of an FYI, as we do not currently have 15% special ed here in Everett. Another area of difference between these bills is whether or not a report on over-identification of special education students is required. So those will be of interest, and those are not yet scheduled for public hearing as of last night. I did not check on these today, but we're likely to see some action in the next couple of weeks on this issue. 2 other special education bills that are scheduled for public hearings this week include Engross second substitute House Bill 1479 concerning restraint or isolation of students in public schools and educational programs. This bill was introduced last year and through a lot of committee hearings, and we had heard from legislative leadership that it just wasn't ready at the end of last session, but needed more work. There have been 2 work sessions included this week to hear from panelists, and this bill is scheduled for a public hearing in the House Education Committee on Thursday. House Bill 1914, improving the education of students with varying abilities by enhancing special education services. As of this afternoon, we did not yet have a bill report summary, but one should be coming out soon, which would help clarify which additional enhancements would be required for special education that are not already expected of a school district. So we'll be following that one as well. So a lot being discussed in Olympia. If any directors have specific bills that are of interest or you will be tracking, please let me know. I would love to be on that journey with you and know the bills of interest. One thing impacting this legislative session is that there have been 6 citizens initiatives that have been submitted to put several issues back before the legislature and the voters, including proposals to eliminate the cap and invest carbon pricing system, part of the Climate Commitment Act, and the capital gains tax, which has funding intended for education. So those will be back on the table and would have big revenue implications for the state. Also in a citizens initiative is a proposal for a parent's bill of rights for K-12 education, which is something we heard about last legislative session from Senator Wellman. I've yet to see whether the initiative has anything new that doesn't already exist in law or in the version that Senator Wellman has already been promoting and is linked on her website, but we'll continue to monitor that. If anyone is interested in this issue, I encourage you to see Senator Wellman's website with that information. Lastly, I just wanted to report out and echo what you said and what Director Atkins had said about the meetings we've been having recently. Before the break, we did meet with Senator Lovick from Legislative District 44 and Senator Robinson and Representatives Fossey and Cortez from Legislative District 38. We discussed our 2024 legislative priorities, which, as you know, is available on our website, and got some additional insight from them on what to expect this upcoming session, as well as answer any questions they had. Those were positive meetings, and thank you to Director Atkins for participating in those. I am being shown one of the bills. Perfect. Okay, so we do have a bill number for the paraeducator bill, which we'll be looking into. Senate Bill 6082. So that must have come today. Thank you, Director Atkins. And then the only other addition was what you had mentioned, that this past last week, we did meet with U.S. Representative Rick Larson from the 2nd Congressional District. 2 priorities that WASDA has at the federal level are Title I funding and IDEA, which is the Individuals with Disabilities Act. And this is the federal law that supports special education. So those 2 are really important to maintain in the federal budget. For us in Everett, federal funds account for about 5% of our revenue, which may seem small, but those go to groups of students and programs that we need. WASDA leadership is heading out to DC at the end of the month, and as you spoke about the meeting in January regarding the FCC as well. So WASDA is taking leadership on advocating for some of those issues as well. And just another thank you to Congressman Larson for meeting with us last week. We have some good representation out there, so great meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, and I appreciate the collaboration that was just witnessed up here on the dais. Since we do want to be models for our students. Now we'll move on to section 11.0, which is the consent agenda. Dr. Saltzman, would you please provide an introduction to the consent agenda?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair, and to the board directors and the public this evening. The board's consent agenda includes repetitive business items such as meeting minutes, personnel actions, expense vouchers, surplus lists, gifts, grants, and recurring contracts. Sometimes includes items that occur less frequently but are of a routine business nature. These items are usually reviewed by the board in the Friday report, 1 or more weeks before the board meeting. This gives directors time to ask staff questions or to consider a discussion about the policy implications of those items. Excuse me, the board votes on the consent agenda in a single motion. By its definition, a consent agenda is not debatable. In the case of this consent agenda, the superintendent's office received and answered questions regarding the vouchers, the November financial report, and the Puget Sound Taxpayers Accountability Act grant for early learning interlocal agreement. The consent agenda is presented as published for board approval. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Saltzman. A motion to adopt the consent agenda is in order.
I motion to adopt the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Thank you. It has been moved by Director Adkins and seconded by Director Herman to approve the consent agenda. Does any director wish to remove an item from the consent agenda and place it in the new business section of the agenda? Hearing no request, we'll proceed to a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed say no. Okay, the motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to section 12.0, strategic progress monitoring, where we will look at the strategic initiative study sessions preview. Mr. Meisner.
Thank you.
Sorry, Dr. Meisner.
Don't worry. Good evening, President Mitchell, directors, and Dr. Saltzman. I am very excited tonight to share with you the preview of our upcoming board study sessions that will all be focused on our strategic plan. We have 4 study sessions planned this year. Each study session will contain 2 updates on initiatives lasting about 30 minutes, and we have also included 2 updates on our sustainability program. So I just want to also provide a brief overview of some of the key elements of our strategic plan. It is a plan that we can all be proud of. There's a lot of great work happening, and we also are welcoming 2 new board members. So at the center of our strategic plan are our priority student outcomes. And our strategic plan centers students. It prioritizes their learning, and the priority student outcomes provide measurable targets to track our progress over time. And they begin with, as you know, to ensure third-grade literacy, to increase science and math achievement, to reduce gaps between and among student groups, to ensure students are prepared to succeed in college and career, and to strengthen student wellness, engagement, and safety. You also often see inspire, achieve, and thrive in association with our strategic plan. That's a reference to our organizational mission. We want every Everett Public School student to feel inspired to achieve, and we define achievement in Everett Public Schools as proficiency and growth to aligned grade level standards. When we put all of this together, we see our students thriving. We also often see our core values represented in association with our strategic plan. And our core values helped us to design the strategic plan, and it shapes our implementation. And we see their passion, respect, diversity, collaboration, integrity, equity, and learning at the center. And as you know, those are the core values that our students are being recognized with the board on a regular basis. So these things all work together and provide the ethos of our strategic plan with student achievement at the center. So I'm also just going to walk through the organization of this document. It's more technical, but we are providing updates to the board in the study sessions on initiatives. And I will just explain kind of how the initiatives nest within the parts of our strategic plan. So at the top, we have our organizational mission. And then moving to the left side, we have our priority student outcomes that I described earlier. And then we move to the right column, and those are our strategic themes. So we have 6 strategic themes that help us to organize our work towards the priority student outcomes. This is the part where our plan, right? So you start to see the plan take shape at the strategic theme level. Each of those themes to the right column have objectives. And then further to the right, we have initiatives. And this is the work that our initiative teams take on. And collectively, our initiatives work together, not on their own, but they work together towards the objective of the theme, and then all of our themes work together towards progress with our priority student outcomes. The right column is very significant. I want to call that out. And the right final column is equity, cultural awareness, and responsive practices. And you can see that that column spans across our outcomes, across our themes, and our organizational mission. And that's an important thing, so that we believe that all of our initiative work is working towards our commitment and our value for equity and culturally aware and culturally responsive practices. One final note is to go over the color coding that you see on the initiative theme. So the red initiatives, those are our active initiatives for this year. Initiatives typically take 2 years. Some of them take longer. Rare cases, we might be able to achieve the objectives in 1 year. But the red signifies active this year. And those are the initiatives that the board will receive updates on during our upcoming study sessions. Blue initiatives are operationalized. This doesn't mean that the work is done, but this operationalized status happens when there is infrastructure, there is shared knowledge, there are tools, training is launched. We have a plan, we have infrastructure, we now have capacity to do work at the strategic level that wasn't there before. And so that now fits into our operational status. It fits within our regular continuous improvement process to be supported and monitored. Blue signifies accomplishment, that our initiatives have reached that operational status, and the black represents initiatives not yet launched for the future. So on this next slide, you see the same thing, but you see the strategic themes D, E, and F. So now I will transition into providing a brief preview of the content for each of the upcoming study sessions. So January 23rd, we'll begin with a sustainability update provided by Mike Gunn. Next, we will have an update on our 2 initiatives that are connected to our commitments and work for removing barriers and increasing access for our diverse learners. Just a sec. There are 2 initiatives, and these are connected to themes B and C. Theme B being effective instruction, and theme C being around equity and access. And we will also have an update on our early learning programs provided by Ann Arnold, and that is connected to our strategic theme C around equity and access. So that is the content for January 23rd, right around the corner, and we're really excited to launch that with you. February 22nd, we have 2 initiative updates. So our first is on multi-tiered systems of support and positive behavior interventions and support. There are 2 merged initiatives here. One is part of theme A, which is around supportive culture, and the second is theme B, around effective instructional practices. And this is the place where it's connected to some of the earlier initiatives we did around social emotional learning and several other things, but it's really becoming a more coherent system. We have a lot of capacity. We're organizing these primarily a lot of tools and support for schools for continued implementation. Mimi Brown will be providing that update. We are launching a new, Defining Essential Practices is a new initiative this year. Defining Essential Practices is an initiative connected to theme D, which is around consistency, accountability, and innovation. This initiative is largely focused on how we define essential practices and how we effectively implement at scale. That will be provided by Callie Spear. In March, we have another update around equity-based assessment practices. This is a continued initiative. This is connected to theme B, effective instructional practices, will be provided by Catherine Matthews and Kathy Woods. And we also will have an update around community engagement, outreach programs, and partnerships. That, of course, is connected to theme E around community engagement, and that will be provided by Chris Fulford. We don't have an update in April because of spring break, but we do have one in early May. We have another, or the second sustainability update provided by Mike Gunn at that time. And then we have 2 updates. These are 2 new initiatives. Safety, which is connected to theme D, around consistency, accountability, and innovation. And safety, physical safety, but also social emotional safety. We're also looking at facilities. This initiative update will be provided by Dave Peters. And the last initiative update, and this is a new one, but builds upon work that has been going in motion already. This is theme F around human capital and investing in career pathways for employee groups. And we have some exciting partnerships in motion and development that we're continuing to work on, and we know we'll have it in place for the May update. So what will happen during these updates? There's a predictable routine that we follow. These are meant to be interactive. These are study sessions, and we will have an interactive activity that is connected to the updates, but we will follow this predictable routine. And so you'll have information around a big idea, the introduction and overview. What is this initiative about? You will see more specific milestones and timelines, celebrations and examples of recent work, performance measures, how we're tracking our progress, the challenges and next steps, and of course, there'll be questions and discussion at the end or along the way. And the guiding questions that we have for the board, what questions do you have for clarification? We want to make sure you have the clarity you need. And then the reflective questions for each of us when we gather your feedback is what effect will this work have on achieving our strategic objectives? You can look at the theme level for that. What effect will this have on our priority student outcomes? Always helpful discussion. Okay, that concludes this preview. Do you have any questions?
Thank you for that, and
Sure.
I do like the organization you had last year, so thank you for that. Any
follow
questions
that.
from the board?
Yes, Director Herman.
It was just a thought as I was reading through some of the other materials on like the PASTA grants and everything, and then seeing early learning. If at during any of the presentations, if it makes sense to add in just some information on how those programs are being funded, if maybe that falls under challenges, and it would help connect the dots, just to possibly include that, just a thought, if it makes sense.
Yeah, thank you. So how are, if there are resources, how are the resources supporting the initiative work? Thank you. Okay.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you so much.
Sorry, I messed up on my, yeah, I know, it's just the way it broke up here. Thank you so much. Information discussion, section 13.0, first quarter financial update, November financial report. Andy Tress?
Thank you, Board of Directors, President Mitchell, Dr. Saltzman. Tonight, I will provide a brief update on the first quarter and November 2023 financial report. There are company detailed financial reports in today's consent agenda item that reflect our September, October, and November financial activity for the fiscal year that provides additional details of our additional financial information. I will go over the general fund information and its respective enrollment, revenues, expenditures, and fund balance. And I will also review the four other comprehensive funds, which include our capital fund, our capital projects fund, our debt service fund, our associated student body fund, and our transportation vehicle fund. This graph is a representation of our 3 years of our overall enrollment, as the majority of our revenues are calculated on our enrollment overall. If you look at that first solid blue column in October and the November monthly enrollment, you can see that we're seeing enrollment slightly increasing over last year. This makes me cautiously optimistic that we'll continue going forward on that trend, and we do anticipate an overall increase in enrollment from our budget as well. As we look at our projected revenues for the year, I anticipate that revenues will be approximately $382.9 million at this point in time. This reflects slightly higher than budgeted local levy collections of about $61.6 million. This increase is primarily due to an increase in our overall levy capacity calculation. Our levy increases year over year based on the consumer price index, and that is finalized in August, and we make our projections in the May timeframe. Our state apportionment reflects our more favorable enrollment assumptions, as I previously discussed. We do anticipate a slightly more increase overall in our enrollment. Our revenue increased from our October projections slightly, primarily due to an increase in our local non-tax revenues. Our non-tax revenues include things like donations as well as investment income, our food and nutrition income, our local food and nutrition revenues from our schools. We are seeing an increase in our federal revenues, but this is offset by a decrease in our state special purpose revenues. And this is primarily due to the fact that the state is funding certain programs with the remaining COVID one-time federal programs, like our transition to transitional kindergarten is typically state funded. It's being funded through our ESSER or COVID funding to ensure that we utilize the state utilizes the remainder of those fundings for this fiscal year. When you look at that trend line for our revenues for the past 3 years, typically September, October, and December revenues reflect budgeted revenues. So you will see an uptick in January based on the fact that our enrollment is projected to be higher at the end of the year on actual collections. Moving on to our projected expenditures, we are anticipating slightly increase in projected expenditures from October. However, this is overall lower than our overall budgeted of $386.1 million. Those projections are currently within total board authorized appropriations. The projections include many assumptions. We do anticipate our material, supplies, and operating costs to be higher than projected. However, that's offset by our overall staffing expenditures are projected to be lower than budgeted. I also want to highlight on this graph here is if you look at the first 3 months of November, you see declining overall expenditures. November is slightly lower than you would typically see at this point in time because we typically have 4 weeks to process our disbursements throughout the year, and we had one less opportunity due to the holiday break and timing of that. We will see a jump in December in our overall expenditures to reflect the catch up of the one less week of payments overall. It will actually be approximately higher than our September. Another thing to note, what's not reflected in here is we have two bargaining negotiations that are unsettled at this point, and those expenditures for staffing costs are not reflected in those total overall expenditures. In the actuals, our projected ending fund balance has had no significant change to our October projections. We are still anticipating a 7.8% projected ending fund balance at the end of August 2024. This does reflect our more favorable enrollment assumptions. However, this still is projecting expenditures to exceed revenues for the year. If there's any changes in assumptions, it can significantly impact our projected ending fund balance of 7.8%. You can see here our November ending fund balance is $40.6 million, which is slightly higher than last year's November ending fund balance. Again, this doesn't reflect all of our staffing costs, and it does reflect lower materials and operating costs based on our November disbursements. Looking at the other 4 comprehensive funds, we'll discuss the capital project funds first. Again, the trends have started to shift to high points in our October and our April timeframe, as we currently don't have any outstanding approved bonds from our community. So our major revenues include our capital levy revenues for our capital projects and our technology levy projects. It also includes a state match, which is from a school construction assistant program based on our new building projects. Appropriations are a part of our multi-year projection plans, and as we move forward, you'll start to see monthly expenditures increase as we continue to execute that plan. We do anticipate possibly an increasing fund balance overall because we do have some major projects in the future, so we need to build up our fund balance to do our modernizations and modernizations of new schools. This also includes our full 0.5 million in a levy transfer to our general fund to manage our overall capital levy expenditures that are allowable in the general fund. Our debt service fund continues to support our principal and interest and other bond costs. This fund balance will fluctuate with the bond payment schedule. And what I want to highlight on this sort of trending line is that you see that big October increase from our local levy collections and a big decline in December is because our first bond payment of the year is in the December timeframe. And that bond payment actually reflects our principal bond payment. And then we get our April collections. In April, you'll see a slight increase, and then we pay our second bond payment in June, and that is really only our interest, so it's not as big of a dip going forward. We have about 71 million outstanding in bonds currently at this point in time. Moving on to our Associated Student Body Fund. This again supports our student activities and athletics for the fiscal year. And what I want to highlight on this trend is that we can see November's current year, the 23-24, that blue line is slightly lower than the 22-23 last year's line, which really indicates to me that the students are utilizing their resources in the year that they're making those fundraisers, and so they're hearing the communications as we help support them utilize those activities. And our November ending fund balance for our transportation vehicle fund is approximately $220,000. This fund supports the purchases of school buses, and we are estimating approximately $325,000 in our state depreciation, and that revenue is determined based on the aging of our overall busing fleet. We are under the contracted busing model, meaning that we have a transportation service provider. And so all of our other transportation funding runs through our general fund as well. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments?
Of course, I always have questions for Andy.
I love it.
Okay, kind of a remedial question, just to frame it for everyone. Can you give a brief explanation of the difference between FTE and headcount and how that impacts the budget?
Yeah, so head count is like students in seat, and FTE is an average of students across the monthly pieces. So different funding, for example, Running Start is, if you're a full-time Running Start student, the student FTE is actually higher than a 1.0 FTE for the funding model itself, or if they're in different programs, depending on the funding factor. So it's an average overall, the monthly periods.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Great question.
And then help me understand, on slide 6, you had talked about staffing expenses expected to be slightly lower, but with higher headcount, I know we had to add staff, and so I'm curious where that comes into play.
Yeah, so some of that's the fact that we build in capacity both on our revenue side and our expenditure sides. We also build in room for additional 100 students as well, so we bring it on both sides. That gives us that capacity. So overall, we typically are below our overall apportionments, and that's coming in the staffing side because of the capacity we built in. So I believe we were right on our targeted FTE. So I do anticipate about 3.5, or being lower than our overall appropriations.
Okay, thank you. And then one other quick question. On the local levy collections, is that a difference of about 200,000?
Yeah.
Is that?
Yeah,
what I
200-ish,
caught?
a little bit
Okay.
higher than that.
Yeah.
So.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
I would just like to thank you for changing the colors and the scheme. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Okay, thank you so much, Andy. At this time, just because we have a very long presentation upcoming, putting in just a 10-minute break. So it is, let's actually say a 7-minute break, because it's 5:53, so we can just start at the top of the hour and it's clean. So we are at recess for 7 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. Welcome back. We are now moving on to section 13.02, the instructional review summary for 2023. We do have multiple presenters. Dr. Scott, you will begin. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, President Mitchell and Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman. Thank you for the opportunity to provide you this annual summary of the instructional review process and outcomes. And what we hope to accomplish tonight is to provide you with key connections and takeaways from the 2023 instructional review season. And you'll hear throughout this presentation, IR is the abbreviation we're going to use to refer to the instructional review. And the instructional review season, as you know, spanned from October to December and included all 27 schools. So tonight's agenda includes the overall purpose and structure of the IRs, how that structure is connected to part of our continuous improvement process. We're going to illustrate a sampling of the GLOWs, what we like to call GLOWs. Those are strategies and practices across the system to promote student achievement, as well as areas most commonly identified in the areas of needing improvement. We call those the GROW areas. We're grateful to have three principals with us tonight. Here are colleagues who will help us spotlight best practices that are scalable across all of our schools. And finally, we'll look at how action planning from the IRs is set into motion and our next steps in the school improvement cycle. So thank you for the opportunity.
So if you haven't been able to attend an instructional review, you may be thinking, what exactly is an IR? But an instructional review is not a presentation by administrators. Rather, it's a team of practitioners who are seeking out the consult from another team who provides a different lens to really help them reflect and reevaluate, not to tell them what they should be doing, rather, mostly to bring just a different lens and become thought partners in how the building level teams can improve their service to students. This year, our instructional reviews are a little bit smaller. It is a little bit more intimate team that supports a collaborative group thought process. The core team includes, of course, the superintendent, either the deputy superintendent or the CAO, and the regional superintendent, and then the building level team. Now, the principal might actually elect to invite additional support staff from the district to attend, but this process is really about both accountability and autonomy. That specifically for schools and their teams who work most closely with our students so that we can collect input and collaboratively design the action steps to meet the needs of their students. So what does an instructional review look like? Well, we start with a data review and analysis, which is just a really brief segment where schools can identify areas of strength and urgency of student achievement improvement using a balance of summative data from things like smarter balanced assessments, panorama education, social emotional learning student surveys, climate surveys, as well as salient real-time data. So data from our diagnostic assessments, things that are like iReady Lessons Complete, unit assessments, attendance, and discipline. This really helps to set the stage for a classroom learning walk that identifies those look-fors and indicators in the classroom that will help to frame the action plans that are developed at the end of this process. During those classroom learning walks, a team spends approximately 10 minutes in each of 4 classrooms that are already identified by the principal and their leadership teams, collecting data so that we can share that back out as a group. The common observation tool that we utilize really helps that all participants are focused and tailored on the specific building's needs and really are identifying those look-fors that the building would like some feedback on. So finally, that team comes back and reconvenes to debrief what we lovingly call our GLOWs and GROWs, which is that collegial conversation about the evidence that we've observed and gathered in those classroom walks. The GLOWs, as you have heard, are those celebrations in strengths in the observed data, and they're really called out in those requested look-fors in the success indicators. The team also hears the GROWs, which frequently are actually presented as noticings and wonderings, which identify specific feedback for the indicators and actually also some suggested potential suggestions for the building team as well. Now that building team then captures that feedback, recording that process in this 4th segment, which is the school-based reflection and preliminary action planning. And that principal, the assistant principal, instructional coaches, as well as the regional debrief so that they can share that feedback with the building team and then collectively identify those support needs, which could be twofold. Team members then identify the supports that they themselves can provide within the building, as well as supports they might need from the district level, so that we can help them to achieve that partnership and really achieve student achievement in an intentional way. They then can co-construct this action plan based on their 3 big problems of practice, or we lovingly call them 3 big rocks. And they finalize and distribute that plan within 72 hours. So this is a very focused team working on some real evidence that we've gathered to really produce an action plan that's very much directed towards what those buildings needs. So as a result, they have a refined plan of action that's shared with both the schools as well as district staff. And those plans really allow buildings to identify and implement instructional improvement strategies that are going to help close gaps, clarify systems to monitor student growth and progress, and ultimately improve student achievement. So an IR really provides 3 key things for us. One is equity. This provides for equity for our system, and it allows us to ensure that every child has access to high-quality learning opportunities, regardless of the classroom they're in, regardless of the place they're in the district. This means addressing needs, developing action plans, and providing resources for students who may need additional time and support, as well as accelerating students who need that as well. Capacity building is critical because instructional reviews truly are a capacity building system. They involve developing the skills and knowledge of the team members, such as teachers, paraeducators, coaches, and administrators, to really have a common understanding of what those effective practices need to be. And by sharing and implementing those practices, the building team can work together to improve student outcomes. And finally, instructional reviews are about support. Not necessarily some kind of a financial resource, but truly about building a team that helps them to improve instruction in the classroom and at those school sites. This involves sharing what the team learns and providing resources and training to build the skills of the educators, not just at that site, but also district-wide. By supporting instructional improvement, student achievement can be enhanced. And overall, the instructional reviews are one strategy we use to promote equity, enhance the capacity of our staff, provide support to monitor progress, and overall improve student achievement.
Sorry, Kathy, before you move, can you move that Zoom box up? Because it sort of blocks some of the text that's on the screen, where the cameras are. Thank you.
And then all that. Here we go. Thank you. The next part of this presentation is really to ground the instructional reviews in the continuous improvement cycle. So kind of where is it, how does this fit in the big picture of improving student achievement? I want to start with our theory of action. This is what we believe will positively impact student achievement. So if we lead for consistent implementation of these 4 things, we're going to see continued gains in student achievement. So let me start with high quality Tier 1 instruction. Tier 1 instruction is what every student gets every day. It should be aligned to grade level standards. It includes the skillful use of adopted curriculum. It's culturally responsive and responsive to the individual learning strengths and needs of the students in the classroom. So that's the high quality Tier 1 instruction. Progress monitoring is ongoing formative assessment and response, both in the moment and that, when a teacher identifies what a student or a group of student needs right in the moment, and longer term, when they have common assessments, when they have formative assessments, and they learn what students need and adjust their instruction down the road. So it's both in the moment and longer term. That's progress monitoring. And that progress monitoring is not done only by the teacher individually, but also in teams. So they have common assessments, they come together to analyze and say, what are the next steps? The social emotional learning and positive behavior interventions and support are critical foundations. They include setting the foundation for positive learning environment. And we talk about positive behavior interventions and support and one of our principals will talk about that in more detail. But we also talk about social emotional learning, and we have the framework of ruler, and we also have second step curriculum. And so the curriculum, that tier 1 instruction, includes academics, but it also includes social emotional learning. And it means that we have to have those quality systems in place to ensure student emotional, psychological, physical, and identity safety in order for that academic learning to happen. And then those teacher teams that I mentioned a minute ago that analyze data together, those are those high-performing teams that are that engine for continuous improvement cycles. And it's those individual teacher teams, whether it's grade level team at the elementary school, or maybe the English language arts team or math team at a secondary school, but it's also the instructional leadership team, the leaders of leaders within that school that work together. So those are those high functioning teams. When we have all of those things together, we see continued gains in student achievement. So where does the instructional review fit in the cycle of school improvement? It's an important part of that ongoing cycle. So you can see the figure on the left really kind of shows the cycle of improvement over a given year. A team that's starting with the principal and their instructional leadership team develops the school improvement plan. They don't develop that from scratch every year. They look at what they've been doing in the past, make sure it's tied to our strategic plan, look at student data, how have we been doing, what are our next steps, what do we need to do this year? Or really, if they start developing that in the spring, what do we need to do in the next year? And then we implement and monitor that plan. Implement and monitor that plan at the school level, and we're looking at it as regionals and looking at it at the district level. And then in the fall, sometime between October and December, there's an instructional review. And you've already seen, Dr. Boughton has talked about what that instructional review looks like, but it's really taking that school improvement plan and kind of putting it into a finer lens. Right, and looking at it, what do we need to do now that we've got this in place and we've been implementing and monitoring that plan? How do we focus down on some problems of practice that we really want to resolve right now? And then that team develops a focused IR action plan, and they implement and monitor that plan. So that's an ongoing cycle throughout the year and over a series of years. Within each of those little elements is the figure on the right. So we start with the data overview, just as we talked about with the instructional review, but we do data overviews all the time for various kinds of things as we're planning, as we're implementing. A data review might be a professional learning team looking at how students did on a particular assessment. And then they're going to dig deeper. What's the item analysis? How did they do on these particular things? What skills do I need to reteach? And so in the instructional review, we do a data overview, we dig deeper, and then we identify what are the targeted adult practices, both the instructional practices and the leadership practices that we need to get better at in order to improve performance. And then we implement those professional learning and SIP actions, and that cycle continues. And so it's kind of a cycle within a cycle. I like to think of it as that carnival ride that I don't like to go on that's spinning here, and then it's also spinning bigger, because we have to, and all those things have to keep in balance. But it really is one very important piece of the ongoing school improvement, continuous improvement cycle. And we always need to be looking at, are we working our plan? Like, are we doing what we said we were doing? And is our plan working? Are we seeing better results? And if either of those things isn't happening, we need to go back and review and do better. So the instructional review is one step in the fall, where they do that finer iteration of the school improvement plan. And then we as a team go out and look in classrooms and see the plan in action and hone it further and develop a focused action plan that we can implement and monitor. So we find glows. And those of you that have had the opportunity to participate, this can be a favorite part, right? What are we seeing that's really working out there? This is a word cloud that I took just an analysis of all the glows from all the instructional reviews, took the words that showed up most often, and of course, the words that show up the most are the biggest, and look at that. Student learning is the biggest. So, but we see things like intentional, instruction, engagement, language, flexible strategies, instructional. So we see some kinds of things. So that's a big picture. But let me give you a little bit more detailed analysis of what we saw with the glows. And when we saw this and we looked at all of these things, it was like, wow, go back to that, the theory of action, and our glows align with our theory of action. We saw tier 1 instructional strategies, and those glows sounded like this: clear alignment, intentional strategies for high engagement and independence, intentional flexible group time, tier 1 instructional strategies, progress monitoring and response to student data. Those glows sounded like this: seamless interventions, differentiated flexible groups using formative assessment data. We saw glows around social emotional learning and PBIS, ruler implementation, reinvigorated PBIS campaign, focus on sense of belonging and emotional regulation. So that's what we saw in the instructional reviews. And then finally, high-performing teams as engines of improvement cycles. Focused PLCs include a thorough review of data and intentional planning for instruction. Those were glows directly out of those glows from the instructional reviews. So those are some of the glows that are aligned with the theory of action and an ability to see how does this fit in with the continuous improvement cycle.
All right, so we have our glows, and we also are sure to identify specific grows. So similar as Dr. Woods presented, this is a word cloud frequency chart visualization of the grows, or the big rocks that were identified across schools and their IR action plans. So we see here that students are at the center of the IR action plans to make sure that the targeted adult actions improvements are focused around supporting students. We see instruction, learning, writing, progress, language, multilingual is very large. So that's just kind of a big picture, and I will share some common themes. So as we worked to do more analysis, here are some of the common trends around the big rocks and the grows for this year's IR action plan. So starting at the top, a big focus on strengthening multilingual learner instructional strategies. And I do want to emphasize that often a grow is building upon existing strengths. So when you saw Dr. Wood share the glows, you might see some things show up in both buckets, like progress monitoring, for example. It's not always something brand new, or it's not always a deficit, but it could be increasing intentionality, building at scale, or even just doing it more efficiently. So multilingual learners and instructional strategies. So this work is ongoing and continued to develop language routines, to strengthen planning methods to meet the needs of our diverse learners, to build upon the students' assets, which is being a multilingual learner, but shaping instruction through planning that is more effective for our students. Part of that is unpacking language acquisition assessments, the WIDA, to set language objectives that match the needs of the learners, the multilingual learners. And then progress monitoring, whether that's in the classroom or at grade level or department across the school. How are we doing that more effectively for our multilingual learners? Again, building on many strengths and a lot of progress that's been made. Math instruction, this is a big continue as we continue to adopt our system-wide math curriculum, illustrative mathematics. The focus that we saw across schools was around engagement, making sure that math instruction is really engaging, moving from like some passivity but more inquiry-based, when to release the scaffolding so students are engaging in that rigor. How do they learn together? A lot of it's also how do we get student talk that's productive, focus on the learning targets, but students are learning together, also connected to how we support language learners. And how do we use short cycle assessments? So the formative assessments, like at the weekly interval to check where students are, to reteach and support students quickly when they need it. So we see progress monitoring. This one is like kind of school-wide, strengthening those systems, looking at attendance, Participation and usage, this just means our students getting access to the tools that they need. iReady, or that we have some multilingual learner software, ILNL. It could be participation in extended day if you're in a school that provides that through its categorical title funds. But making sure that our implementation is being progress monitored as well. Looking at unit assessments, as I've described earlier, then how does that feed the engine, right, that Dr. Woods talked about, of educator teams, teacher teams, professional learning communities, so that those teams are using those data to inform their teamwork and their instruction. Effective unit planning to meet the needs of diverse learners. This is building upon a lot of the great work that we've been doing. We call it elevating instructional practices. This was a real big focus of our work at the October LID Day, the Learning Improvement Day, where we were using tenets and strategies around meeting the needs of our diverse learners through effective unit planning. So you see that showing up in schools' IR action plans here. And last is our writing instruction across content areas was coming up frequently, helping students to more effectively show what they know through their writing instruction. This was a big area of recovery coming out of COVID and pandemic learning. Students didn't get as much opportunity to build muscles for writing instruction. And so this is something, an area that we continue to work on to strengthen our students' ability in that area. We have the privilege of having three principals here tonight to share, as Dr. Scott shared, spotlighting their best practice. I'll invite Dr. Gideon, who's going to start us off. We have Dr. Gideon from Madison, followed by Sarah Idle from Evergreen, and Alita Smoot from Silver First. So Dr. Gideon.
Thank you, Dr. Meisner. At Madison Elementary, implementation of our IR action plan was tailored specifically for our multilingual learners. At Madison, we have explored how to integrate world-class instructional design and assessment, which is also known as WIDA, language standards with professional development, unit planning, tailored to instruction, and implementation of strategies within the classroom. We started our IR action plan by providing our teachers with the knowledge of actual language standards for our multilingual learners, which then led us to having specific tools that allow us to truly identify what are we teaching our students in the classroom. So here, what's in front of you is one of our unit planning tools. It involves designing lessons with clear language objectives, strategies to meet the needs of our multilingual learners. I want to call your attention to specific columns within this tool. Our first column is our embedded ELD. This is where teachers are identifying specific areas within the unit where we will be teaching our language standards. The second column is where teachers are identifying the guided language acquisition design, which is also known as GLAD, specific strategies that will really help our students to understand the unit. Within this particular unit, our teachers identified picture dictionary and sentence patterning will really enhance our students to really understand the main content standard. The third column is where teachers identify differentiation and scaffolds for specific students. As we begin and continued our learning, we learned there's more to planning for students. You have to also incorporate their assets. So here on this unit planner, you have where teachers are identifying specific students and utilizing certain assets of what they know about those students to truly bring the unit alive. The second column also shows how teachers are identifying specific scaffolds and materials for students to meet the learning. Madison's IR action plan has been designed to be a comprehensive guide that assists us in strategically planning and executing targeted initiatives that supports the diverse backgrounds within our student body. We've taken our knowledge beyond learning and have incorporated into the classrooms. Next, I have Sarah Idle coming. She will be sharing on positive behavioral interventions and supports, also known as PBIS.
Good evening, everybody.
I'm going to talk a little bit about what's been happening at Evergreen Middle School. And I'm going to start off by talking about how the instructional review really impacts our work. So at the school site level, the instructional review provides an opportunity to dig into the school improvement plan and to focus on the next action steps. It is one part of the continual improvement work so vital to student achievement. We look at the data, as Dr. Bowden mentioned, we look at panorama survey data, we look at SBA, iReady, and in this case, our discipline data as well. These are all key information in looking at school improvement. We developed our school improvement plan with all of that in mind and then took that to our instructional review. The review process allows the school team to focus on what the next steps will be. This is co-created after listening to feedback, reflecting on that feedback, and refining processes. What you're seeing in this slide is the first 6 months of our school year. Everett Public Schools core value is identified, and then all of the ways that we are going to focus on improving sense of belonging for students through a variety of campaigns and activities. And as you can see, the first 5 months, we have no slots still open. Our staff has responded very positively to what we've been putting in place. So after reviewing the data and determining next steps, we as a school chose to focus on improving student sense of belonging as one of our big rocks. Our other big rocks had to do with supporting multilingual learners and student achievement. But in this case, we're talking about sense of belonging. This applies to students primarily, but also to staff. Building positive school culture has implications for both social and academic behavior. We started by developing our Timberwolves values as represented in the image to the right. These values drive our pause campaigns and help form Timberwolf identity. As you can see, this process is really about kids internalizing what it means to be a Timberwolf and what those values are. So my purpose is to be my best self, my attitude is everything, my wise choices lead to a better life, and my safety impacts others. After reviewing, we involved staff in taking these core values forward, and with the goal that we are making Evergreen a fun place to learn and work. And part of that is showcasing and celebrating all the good things that are going on day in and day out at school. So here are some of the methods that we've been using to develop that Timberwolf identity. We have pause campaigns that take place throughout the year. Our first campaign this year was to help students remember and embody those Timberwolf values that we just discussed. These are our pause tickets. We have a little ticket economy going on in our school. As you can see in the first image, our day custodian, Romero Lopez, is handing out pause tickets to students during lunch who can recite what it means to be a Timberwolf. We have a teacher in our building, Mr. Dart, who has got kids involved in making 3D printed items that they can purchase with their pause tickets. They can also get through raffle drawings, and these are hugely popular. Yeah, I might keep these. So that part has been really fun. Tickets are distributed to students for excellent social and academic behaviors. We have a student store that is open once a week during lunch where students can cash in their pause tickets for these and a lot of other items, whether it's hand knit wool hats or it's Takis, the bane of most schools, but Takis, and then these 3D printed items as well. We had our second Pack Pride night last night. If you look at the image to the far right, you'll see some very proud students who have received their certificates. Students received awards for their academic behaviors in various content areas. Student athletes also received certificates for their teamwork, sportsmanship, and determination. Families were invited and our bleachers were full. It was lovely to see. We have 4 scheduled over the course of the year, so we've got 2 more, and we welcome you at these events. We hold welcome weeks anytime we come back from a break that is more than 3 days. And that term Welcome Week really embodies helping kids review the expectations again, internalizing what it means to be a Timberwolf, and rewarding the successes that we see. As an example, we came back from the winter break and we held State of the School grade level assemblies. And at those assemblies, we reviewed our expectations. We talked through lots of examples of what it means to be a Timberwolf. We shared social behavior data with them so that they could see where they were improving, where we really needed to focus in a little bit tighter. And so we were able to celebrate what they were doing right, and then also give them some feedback, some constructive feedback about where we go next. We also, in here, you'll see a picture of our Lotteria night that we had in, I believe it was in October, which was a huge success. We have another one scheduled in March. We have assemblies scheduled every month this year. Last year, we were tentative with that, but we've done a lot to really focus on PBIS. So thank you. I'm going to turn it over to Alita Smoot. Maybe I'll leave one of these here for you.
Thank you, that's so sweet. I may not give this back. Good evening, I'm Alita Smoot, I'm the principal at Silver Firs, and I'm going to share with you how we developed our progress monitoring system. So what you'll see in front of you is a snapshot of one of our calendars. And it was, how do we do this annually, continuous improvement process, create this cycle, and we started talking about calendaring. So what you're seeing in front of you is something we start doing the year prior. So we started this work in May of last year and started looking at all of our available days and what we were going to do with them. So really what we're doing is we're scheduling to maximize our people, our resources, and the time to support our students. On my next slide, you'll see a ELA core block. This is an intentionally designed block schedule and to provide coordination and alignment throughout the building. Expectations around the block schedules help to facilitate flexible small groups for intentional instructional support. So you will see in there ELA core, and then you'll see in there that there's ELA small group, and that's what we did, was to design a schedule that intentionally put that in place so that students were getting that small group instruction that they would need. And we do the same thing in our math. So you will see, it's far too big to put it on a slide, but we have the same setup for math. Moving on to this slide, you will see several schedules. These schedules are driven by our block schedule that you just saw on the previous slide, providing targeted small group intervention. On the left, you will see one for our ML students. You'll see the LAP one, which is the colorful one in the middle, and then our students with disabilities on the far right. We have approximately 15 groups a day at servicing our ML students, and anywhere from 7 to 8 for our LAP students. And with our special ed, it's just far too, there's a lot. We see it, my resource room teacher, sees a lot of our kids multiple times during the day. She's also working on what we do at Silver Firs, which is the push-in model. We don't philosophically believe in pulling kids out into the hallway. We need them to be immersed in the classroom with what's going on. And so other than a few kindergartners, as you can imagine, it's sometimes hard to do social skills with kindergartners in the classroom. They do get pulled out for that. On the next slide, what you're going to see is our system, our actual system. So there's, we have the template, which you can see it kind of filled in on the side there, on the left side. This is an example of our progress monitoring template focused on the following questions. What do we want all our students to know and be able to do? And how will we know if they've learned it? And it is standards-based. So you will see there that it says goal/standards. So it will be whatever the teachers are working on at that time, whether it's in math or in ELA. And grade level teams meet during our lift time to share student data. And most importantly, this provides time for teachers to engage in the discourse and what's next? What do we need to do more? What you see on the right is written in handwriting in blue. This is an example of what the instructional coaches follow up with each grade level team. And so when they meet, we have ability this year to meet with teacher teams every Thursday, just because we have that available time for us. And so coaches meet, and what they talk about is what interventions were successful. So here's what the students you talked about, here's what you said you were going to do next. How did that work? Do you need more support from us in like human support? Do you need resources? Would you like us to come in and run an additional small group? Because maybe there's a few other kids that have been caught in that system of progress monitoring them. The other thing that's really been helpful too is during this discourse with the coaches, and oftentimes we try to be there, administrators try to be there as often as we can, we learn even more about the student as a whole. So even like all the things we need to know about that student, socially, emotionally, academically, and sometimes what comes out of that is a referral to our MTSS process. So we find that a student might need a champion. And so what that means is the math coach, well, actually it's our K-5 coach, she may go connect with that particular student because maybe they're struggling with math, but there's also some social emotional. So then we have our counselor also who will check in with that student. So we learn a lot. This system has really made our work intentional. It's really driven the success of Silver Firs even through this time of COVID. We've made some great gains in our building. Thank you so much for your time.
So as our three principals have just shared, the instructional review process has focused the collective work of their staff to positively impact student achievement. And when we think about the actions that take place after the instructional review and they've set their action plans, it's all about taking action to improve the outcomes of our students every year. And so we leverage three key pieces in our district for improvement: people, time, and district resources. So on this particular slide is an example of how our teams have utilized at schools district resources. On the bottom left-hand side is Heatherwood Middle School. This is their math team. And in this particular professional development, they were working with our district math facilitator, learning how to write math language objectives to support their ML students to better engage in learning. On the top right, you'll also see an ML facilitator from our district office supporting Everett High School. And in this particular learning, they were learning Sheltered Instruction Observational Protocol, or SIOP, to support their ML students in stages of language development. And then finally, an example of leveraging these district resources as a result of that instructional review action plan on the bottom is Eisenhower Middle School. Here you'll see the district math facilitator working with the math team to engage in a math OEL, that observing for evidence of learning protocol, where they have a release date to plan, to digest, and plan together the instruction using district curriculum and the facilitator, and then watching a colleague go execute that lesson plan and providing them feedback. Collectively, what that does is it improves the practice of all, because the dialogue that they're having, not only giving that one person feedback, is also a self-reflective process in a team. So highly effective professional development as a result of the IR action. Next, we take a look at how we are mobilizing people and time within the building. As Principal Smoot just shared, one of our greatest resources we have in our schools is our people, and by intentionally scheduling the time around the work that we have to close gaps can make a big difference. So the IR actions can take the form oftentimes of professional learning, but it can also take the form of just really intentional collaboration around a common problem. And so some examples that you see on the screen here actually are reflective of our three schools from our principals in the audience tonight. On the left, you can see Silver Firs kindergarten team. This high-performing team was focused on creating math lessons utilizing GLAD strategies. In the center is Madison Elementary. This particular team was analyzing iReady results to plan instruction for the next week as a part of their Friday collaborative time. And then finally, Evergreen Middle School on the right was utilizing a staff meeting time to align the writing practices across their school in all content areas to create a consistent writing experience for students, to build their skills, and demystify what is the challenge of just navigating school. And so when we eliminate those barriers for kids in particular, then everybody has that really fair chance to show what they know, no matter what subject it is throughout the school. So as we look ahead to our improvement, the great thing about Everett Public Schools is that my colleagues, our colleagues in this district, does not rest. We do not sit on laurels. And while that is a unique challenge to being in Everett, it's also one of the most rewarding parts about working in our district. And so we continue to innovate. In particular, what we're looking forward to in the coming year is to continue to speed up the work that we do through that calendaring, through the timing of our school improvement plans and the data that we're incorporating into it to develop them, to develop them more quickly in the year so we can start small group interventions by the end of September, not, in October. Next, we're looking at developing school improvement plan actions that are multi-year. So what that reflects for the board is you will see school improvement plans that may appear to look stagnant in their actions, but it's actually quite intentional because the data that they're using is informing the work of staff to say we have not mastered this yet, and we're not going a one and done sort of approach to improvement year after year. We're going to stay committed. We're going to do a 3-year, 2-year, 3-year approach, much like we have, as Dr. Meisner reflected on, strategic plan initiatives. Most take 2 years, some even 3, before it becomes the culture of the staff and the collective efficacy to make results. And then finally, one of the things that actually is starting as a result of the instructional review process here in January is principals have shared with the regional superintendents the sort of opportunities they would like to go into other colleagues' buildings throughout the district, not just the ones that are their neighbors, but across the district, and the topics and classrooms they would like to see how their colleagues have been working on their implementation of, let's say, ML strategies, so they can learn from one another and then bring that learning back to their schools. So really excited about the instructional review process and the continuous improvement it creates in that cycle Dr. Wood shared about never resting, but continuing to improve. And with that, we'll take questions.
Yeah, thank you so much. Are there any questions or comments? Jen?
First of all, thank you for the presentation and thank you for the principals for taking time out and coming after what was probably a long day today. Fantastic presentation. The IRs are a highlight for me as a director to get into the schools and see the classrooms in action. I've been just really impressed with the digging into the data to come up with those big rocks or goals. I also saw this year, what I really liked what you were pointing out, the reflection on last year and what those IRs showed last year and improvements that were made, or maybe some things that are still going to be worked on. So I love the multi-year approach. So I guess this is more comments. I did originally come in with some questions, but I think you actually have hit on pretty much what I was thinking. Just really well done. Thank you for letting us as directors see that work in action. I think when we look at our achievement data, it's because of what you all are doing. And I also just really appreciate, because part of my thought was, is this presentation being given to other school principals? We love seeing it, but I bet they would love seeing it and learning from each other, which is also something you had touched on. So just really well done.
Thank you.
I'd like to follow on that on a similar vein. I think with IRs, at the end of the day, the students are the focus, and the staff in every classroom and working collaboratively is what sort of makes it happen. But effective leadership is really important too, and I think Jeff Russell said it earlier that high-functioning school districts don't come naturally without high-functioning leadership, and so I just want to have a shout out to the 3 individuals sitting in this room that came to share the leadership in their schools. And it does also prove that intentional focus pays off with these IRs when you really combine the two of the focus with great leadership. For example, Evergreen, their panorama data was exceptional this year, like mind-blowing. And Madison Elementary School, significant achievements in their ML, an increase of 19 percentage points over last year. And Silver Firs, they have just a remarkable culture there. Really great professional collaboration, and it just really makes all the difference. So I just wanted to take a moment to say thanks to all our school leaders too, because that really is what is incredibly impactful in each building.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Hey, I would like to say thank you too, and also hearing from the principals really is a highlight. So thank you, the three of you, for coming. I also want to just recognize the fact that for the ML students, what I heard from Madison is that change to, and maybe it's not a complete change, but looking at their assets. I'm reading a book for my own professional development called Immunity to Change, and they do reference a school district in California where a lot of ML seeing deficits in English and getting that change to assets. And so really hearing what I read is in practice, I would like to recognize that. And then hearing the term autonomy with accountability, that really just as professionals, which is what all of our staff are, really hearing that reinforced. And I do hope that the building principals do that. And just a side note to this presentation, really, I do appreciate it because I just want to say with the presentation that came before this with budgets, that really, I think I have heard more about budgets in the past 2 years than I had in the 8 years before. But I think it's because of the budget cuts, just having more transparency. And a presentation like this, being able to go to the IRs, that when we go to national and state meetings, really one of the best practices is having student data at every meeting. I feel like we've had financial data at almost every meeting. This is a meeting where we do get some student data, which is really great. And so it is having that balance as board members, being that accountability for the budget, but also student growth. And how do we have a balance at our meetings of both of those things, that full transparency, and not a 45-minute presentation, but just how do we see it? Because that's why we do what we do, is to make sure that you're able to do what you do. And I just really thank you, because I do appreciate you going to the IRs. It really is a highlight. So thank you. Take a breath again. Okay, now we're moving on to section 14.0, unfinished business, and there's no unfinished business scheduled for this meeting. Now we'll move on to section, oops, I skipped one again. I need to figure this out. Back up. Section 13.03, student information systems update. The presenter is Brian Beckley. I appreciate you knowing what you were doing.
Yes, thank you. Let me get set up here. Good evening, President Mitchell, Board of Directors, Dr. Saltzman. It's my pleasure tonight to share with you an update to the student information system selection process. I'm going to be back in front of you again in February to tell you which selected vendor we're going to go with, and you'll have the finalized contract to review as well at that time. So tonight I'm just going to kind of share the process up to this date and opportunity to answer questions at the end. So we're really proud of the work and proud of the process we've done to this point, and feel good about the input we've gotten leading us to this final selection. This project, as a reminder, is part of the 2022 capital levy. It's a promise we made to our voters that we would update our student information system, and this is the beginning of that work. So the objectives of this presentation are really to touch base on what is the function of a student information system, our reasons of why we're making a change, provide you an overview of the process to date, including stakeholder feedback that helped us guide where we're at to this point and will inform our final selection, and end with some highlight of some next steps and opportunities for answering questions from the board. So the purpose of a student information system, quite simply, is it's a software solution that enables us to manage student information more efficiently. It impacts so many aspects of the district. So you can see in this diagram here, just sort of that idea about each of these are independent, but the idea that they are interconnected. So having a student information system that can bring that into one umbrella is a really important piece for an efficient and effective district operations for managing that information. So each of these have their own responsibility, but they are very interconnected. And so an effective student information system brings that to life. There's also specific components within a student information system. I've listed there some, but not all, such as grades, master scheduling, special programs, assessment, attendance, discipline. Those are all components within a student information system. So why are we looking at changing our student information system in Everett? So to begin with, it's been over a decade that we have done this, that we've reviewed and we've selected one. So it's outdated, and that is one of the reasons why we need to look at a more modern, usable interface and functionality. That's what we're aiming for. We need to make sure that we stay up to date on state reporting requirements, and so that's a huge component of a student information system. We want to make sure that our strategic plan, you've heard about that tonight, that our student information supports that. For example, the grading and assessment strategic initiative. We ought to make sure that our gradebook can support where that initiative is leading, is one example. And the number one piece of feedback we received is we need one all-in-one system. And so you can see in this image, this is our current reality. So in the core is eSchool and enrollment and parent-student portals. That's sort of the core of our system. But with the limitations in that core system, we have added all those other pieces over time. And so all of what you see there is our student information system. But you can see how many different components there are. So we heard loud and clear from all of our stakeholders, we want one place to go to get all of this information. And so that is certainly a goal of going out and looking for what's out there. So this is a timeline. I did share this with you in November, but just kind of orient you on where we're at in the project. So we're here on January 9th. We'll be back on the 13th with our final selection. We will be implementing the project after February, and the idea is we're cutting over to the new student information system to begin the 25-26 school year, and then there'll be ongoing training beyond. This will be a large project that takes a while to continue to train and bring people up to speed. So a lot of work has taken place, but a lot of work is to come. So one of the stakeholder feedback pieces we did is initially started with our request for a proposal, or an RFP. And that's our way of communicating, our advertising to our constituents, our vendors. We're looking for something. And so we gathered hundreds of pieces of stakeholder feedback from our community, from parents, from students, to help us write the RFP. And you can see there in the word cloud some of the key pieces that we heard over and over again, is to be mindful of these aspects in writing the request for proposal. And it was really telling that, again, students are at the center. We need something that's user-friendly. We need something that's efficient. This is some synopsis of feedback. We want something that improves accuracy and accessibility. We want to cater to the needs of our students, parents, and teachers. That was what they were really clear about in writing the RFP. And we also asked for common frustrations, concerns, and dream features. So we included that in the writing about some of the things that they wanted to see. And so we submitted that RFP October 31st, and we got replies from several vendors, and we narrowed that down to the top two. And the top two, based on the scoring and their responses, were Synergy by EduPoint and Skyward by Wasipsi. And we had them come into the CRC that first week of December, and we had multiple breakout sessions. We had over 45 breakout sessions with over 300 participants. We wanted a really robust process that included the practitioner lens. So we wanted teachers part of it and administrators and counselors in the field and giving us input. But we also wanted parents and students in sessions devoted just to them and their lens. And so we organized those breakout sessions around stakeholder groupings. So we had some rooms, some sessions that had office professionals, teachers, parents, students, counselors, administrators. But we also organized some breakout sessions around content. So we had a session on gradebook, a session on assessment. So you could have people go to multiple sessions based on their grouping of their work group or their stakeholder group, but also their area of interest. And you can see on the slide here some of the various breakout rooms. If you were here that first week of December, I mean, we took all the rooms at the CRC to pull this off. It was very, very exciting to hear feedback from the participants in these breakout sessions. And to make it flexible to allow them to engage based on their work schedule, we organized into half-day or full-day sessions. This is an example of what Monday looked like. And you can see some sessions organized by content, some by stakeholder group, and you could come for half a day, and it might be not as digging deep, but you could come for all day. So there might be someone who wanted to really dig deep into gradebook. They would stay here for the full day. Somebody else later in the week, we would have a half-day session on gradebook. Somebody else that could work it into their schedule could come to that. And so I think that really allowed for us to have so many participants and so much feedback. And digging into that feedback has been really exciting to help us inform sort of next steps. And those next steps really are doing the final selection. And once we have that finalized contract and selected, we'll have our project plan where we communicate, have a really robust communication plan that includes, okay, what's our training schedule going to look like? What's our plan? And begin the initial phases in these next few months of preparing our infrastructure and starting to move the data. We have years and years of information. So starting as soon as we can to begin that migration, that will be next steps. And it will all kick off after our February board meeting when we finalize our selection and share that with you. So with that, I would be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions?
I have a question. I was looking at the timeline, and you do a great job of outlining the steps to get to the point where we select the vendor and approve it. But then 18 months for implementation. You know, my understanding of this is you take your laptop into the Apple Store, and in an hour later, all your data is migrated, and you go home.
Right.
Like, can you just give us an overview of some of the big pieces? I mean, you mentioned just a few on that last slide, but what takes 18 months?
A lot of it is the preparation for the infrastructure. That's going to be the next several months.
Like physical implementation of equipment?
Yeah, just getting the system ready, we're moving to the cloud, we're moving off-prem into the cloud, so that's a new world that we're moving into. So getting ready for that and migrating that information. A lot of it is going to be training and support and PD with the different office groups. So that will, the office groups, the teacher groups, all those groups. But really a lot will begin in schools. So the training and support is, the vendors have sort of suggested you need several months and several large on-ramp to make sure you have enough time to do that. So 18 months is about standard for onboarding something of this magnitude. A lot of it is the training and support.
Thank you.
It does seem like a long time, though.
It'll be busy.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Just quick comments. Thank you for the feedback that you received. And I loved seeing just how much that included. And then also your emphasis on the communication plan out. That's going to be, I think, very important and very exciting. It's anytime we can tell voters that their levy dollars are being used and how they're being used, I think is a big win for us. So thanks for those.
You bet.
Yeah, yes.
If I just, point of privilege, thank you. I walked around this building during that time, and kudos to your team, because I thought I was missing a party with all the rooms going on. I mean, every room was filled with employees.
Yeah.
I've never seen anything like it, so kudos to you and your team. just so for the public to hear, the 18-month ramp up probably also would be because of some holiday vacations and summertime to get everybody training. Is that also, so the public can hear that, why there's some extended time with the 18 months?
That's a good point, Dr. Saltzman. There's really, in the summer months is really our work. We don't get to really do a lot of the training and support during that kind of off time. So that does factor into their suggested timeline as well.
Thank you. I have a question. I'm glad that Alice, that you're back. Thank you. I'm glad you were able to step away. Because I do thank you for having the parent, it looks like some parent and student engagement that week. But having two students here on the rep for the parts of it on the dais, that for the parts of it that are student facing, I wonder if there is an opportunity for them to be involved based on their bandwidth, based on whatever it is, so that they can be our voice back really on that impact to students for what is student facing. And so it is sort of it's a question.
Yeah.
Maybe discussion with them, with what Dr. Saltzman, I just forgot her name, who administers the students, but just sort of an opportunity, I think, just to let them be a voice to us, because they're who's going to be touching it, along with Jen as a parent, Roman as a parent. It will be interesting to see who those, get input from the people that can talk to us. So thank you so much.
You bet.
So I'm going to say section 14.0 unfinished business. I already said that. So section 15.0 new business. We have several policies coming before the board, and Mr. Fleckenstein, I will let you take over.
Good evening. To begin this evening, the proposed revisions to policy 5280, program and staff reduction, clarify the board's role in the process of terminating staff. The board's role differs depending on the type of employee that's being terminated, as noted in the policy revisions. Here you can see under the section of separation from employment, certificated staff and our process for that and classified staff are distinguished. These policy changes or revisions have been reviewed by legal counsel and the superintendent's cabinet prior to tonight's meeting.
Are there any questions?
I have a question. Is there a procedure related to this new policy, or will there be one developed? And I guess my more specific question is, what is the process for the superintendent informing directors of terminations prior to, for example, the personnel report coming out, so that we have an understanding if we are to be the ones, as it said up above, sorry, it was the second paragraph, but.
To answer your first question, there is a related procedure that's indicated in the cross-reference section.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
I didn't look at
your
that, I'm
second
sorry.
question, would you mind repeating that for me, please?
Just at the very top there, the board will consider the superintendent's recommendation regarding the discharge of a classified staff member and render a decision regarding that discharge. Is the process just that it appears on the personnel report, or is there a different procedure?
That is correct. It is proposed to the board through the consent agenda on the personnel report.
But the personnel report doesn't provide the recommendation other than that it just appears, if you understand what I'm getting at?
My understanding is if it's appeared, that is the recommendation.
Okay.
Any other questions? Okay, next.
Thank you. Next, we have proposed revisions to 6215 disbursements. The proposed revisions update the current usage terms and resolve a mismatch between statutory provisions and common practice that we have here within the district. The proposed revisions also include changing the title from disbursements to be more inclusive of expense claim certification and approval.
Are there any questions? Okay, thank you.
Next, we have Policy 6217, Electronic Funds Transfer. This proposed new policy authorizes the district's use of electronic methods of payment, including electronic funds transfers, or EFTs, and automated clearinghouse transfers, or ACHs. Please note that the State Auditor's Office requires adopting an authorizing policy before implementing electronic payments, and that's why this new policy is proposed to you this evening.
Are there any questions? Okay.
Next, we have Policy 6530, Insurance. Proposed revisions are to better track with RCW, or changes to RCW 28A 400-350, and to comply with House Bill 1521. Specifically, changes to the RCW I referenced is around acknowledging that the School Employees Benefits Board, or SEB, is actually now the who is governing our employees' medical benefits. The compliance to House Bill 1521 is in relation to the updates you see here that references workers' compensation.
Are there any questions?
I do have a question about that the superintendent or designee shall obtain errors and omissions insurance in the amounts deemed necessary by the board. Have we deemed an amount necessary? And if so, how have we done that? Or will we be doing that?
That specific information I just don't have at my
Okay.
preparation tonight.
That's okay.
But we can
Maybe follow
respond
up.
to that.
Thank you.
Interesting question, because it is.
I was like, did I do that?
Okay, thank you.
And finally, proposed revisions, there are new policy 6555, capitalization threshold for leases and subscription-based information technology arrangements, also known as SBITAs. This proposed new policy is to address recent statements of the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, also refers to as GASB, and regarding lease and subscription-based information technology arrangements, and respond to an exit comment provided to us by the state auditor to the district after our most recent audit. The GASB statements reference a capitalization threshold set by the district, prompting the need for a board policy setting such threshold. The proposed threshold in this policy is $40,000. And specifically, just to point out in the final paragraph here, what I just referenced, and this is in our financial statements that is saying that if we do have such a technology arrangement or that lease or subscription-based agreement, that it sets forth in the policy the conditions by which we would identify that on the district's financial statements as a liability. If it is under $40,000, we would not.
Any questions?
I just have one. The links here, they go to the summary, and if you could just update the link to go to the statement, I can give you the link if you want.
Okay. We'll get that and update it for the consent, for the second read. Thank you.
Good catch, thank you. So by general consent, we shall move these to second reading. Thank you, Larry. Okay, we are now moving on to section 16.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what do we have planned for our did I skip something again? Oh. No? Oh, I did. When I made my thing, I completely skipped it.
I can assure you, it's a very common thing when you're a new president.
Thank you for the grace. Okay, so moving on to section 15.06, the schedule of the meeting schedule proposal for the 24-25 school year. everybody can look at it. What we looked at is really having two meetings standard for most months, that especially as we get into May, they do get busier. We had for this year sort of taken out some meetings because of just other things, but just sort of having this that we can always cancel a meeting, but not, it's harder to add them back for regular scheduled meetings. And then we did add some work study sessions in there that are going to be planned and scheduled. Does not mean that we will not have more special meetings during the year, but this is just a draft calendar as presented. So any questions? Okay, then we'll move it to second reading. All right. Thank you. Now, Section 16.0, upcoming agenda items. Dr. Saltzman, what is planned for upcoming agenda items and meetings?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Board Directors, and the public. At the January 11th special meeting, board members will participate in a board workshop. At the January 23rd, 2024 special meeting, board members will hear a sustainability update and participate in strategic progress monitoring session 1. January 28th, 2024, board members will attend the WASDA Legislative Conference in Olympia. At the January 30th special meeting, board members will participate in our budget workshop. The regular meeting for February 13th, 2024, the day before Valentine's Day. The regular board agenda will contain the following: several policies for second reading, a recognition of the Jackson High School Orchestra, a recognition of January's core value champions, a recognition of the NAAC Martin Luther King Essay Award winners, first reading of the 5th grade sexual education curriculum adoption, the December financial report, selection of the student information system, and the selection of the board representation to the student rep selection committee.
President Mitchell, I had a question regarding upcoming meetings.
Yes.
Director, curious on the February 6th, February 6th, well, it's not a meeting.
Let's connect.
The Let's Connect, thank you. Two questions. One, is there going to be a Zoom option for that, for families that?
Beth?
There can be. We've been discussing that, and it wouldn't be a problem at all to have a Zoom option. The speaker's amenable to that, so it's just setting up the infrastructure and probably an owl like what we've got here, so no problem at all.
I think that would be great for families who can't travel to Cascade that evening. And then also, I'm wondering if maybe Jamie or Darlene can take a poll of which directors might be interested in attending in case there's a quorum.
Oh, that's a great suggestion, because it is, I think, very interesting to all of us. And even if, and just as a point too, that even though if there is a Zoom option, I really think that if as many people as could be there in person, just for that learning in person is so much more valuable. So I appreciate if we could do Zoom so more people can come, but just encouraging people to be there just because in person is better. But if we could add that, especially if, poll, but I'm pretty sure there's at least 3 of us, 4, I now see 4 nods, so if not 5. So if we could add that, please. Thank you for that suggestion, just to keep us doing board business in public. Section 17.0, executive closed session, there is no planned session tonight. Section 18.0, adjournment. This concludes the regular business that has come before the Board of Directors during this meeting. We are now adjourned.